Okay. Can you hear me, everyone? For that, can you just confirm?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. Can you hear me though? Before I go on. Okay. So my country of choice was Tanzania. That's the one I used for my project. So the first thing I did was to import all the libraries I was going to use for the project. That's the first thing I did. And then I went on to read the
Oh, I think we just lost her. Wow. The internet over there must be very, very terrible. So I think, Fiona, we can just have the Kevin present meanwhile, because I'm suggesting they're having so much problems.
Okay, sure. Let me set things up. Yeah. So the analysis I was doing was for Israel, and I had broken down the analysis into different sections. So for the beginning, we have the initial section, which is the data importation. So this is a section whereby we were importing various files and also libraries that we were using for the analysis. So we have the importation of NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, Seaborn, and Plotly. And the following section was the importation for the data sets. So for the Kiva loans data visualization, we were working with 4 data sets, mainly the Kiva loans data sets, the main data sets, the MPI region locations data sets, the loan theme IDs, and the loan themes by regions dataset. Okay, so after we finished importation of the data sets and also the different libraries that we'll be using for the visualization, the second part of the analysis is broken down into the data preparation section for the analysis. So basically, this section involves removing all the null values and cleaning the data sets so that they can be used for the visualization. So the first, I went through a data set by data set procedure for cleaning the data, starting with the main data set, which is the Kiva loans data set. So using the Kiva loans info.info function, we are able to see the values within the different data sets. So for this particular data sets, we can see the data set. We can see that the non-null value count is as displayed below, and it is not consistent. So this suggests that there are null values within the data set. And so in order to get a clear picture, of the null values that are available, I used the isNull function to get an idea of the null values. So using the isNull function, we're able to sum up the different null values in each column in that particular data set. So we can see for the K-loans data set, the uses, region, partner ID, disbursed time, funded time, tags, and borrower's gender have null values. And we have to make sure that there are no null values. So the next step is to ensure that we remove all the null values where possible. And also where possible, we can add values to that particular column if it is applicable. Okay, so depending on the column and also the data set, we have to, I had to decide which procedure was the best to take, whether we were to remove an entire column or we were to remove rows from a given number of rows from a column, or we were to add data to a given column. So yeah, so this is the analysis for the second data set, the Kiva loans MPI regions. It was a similar analysis to the one that we just went through with the Kiva loans. And the same thing for the Kiva loans theme IDs, as well as the Kiva loan themes by region dataset. So we were able to see that each dataset had a certain number of null values in the given columns. And now we are supposed to, through analysis, we're supposed to decide which column and which procedure we're supposed to undertake for every given column, whether it is deletion of the null data points, or if possible, we can be able to deduce the missing data and add it onto the data set. So for the filtering process, starting with the first data set, which is the Kiva loans data set, you're able to get a visualization of the first 5 entries into the data set using the .head function. So I believe, yeah, we can scroll to the right. So these are all the columns that are in the data set, and certain rows in different columns have null values. And so it was now my part to remove the null values from the given individual columns. So for the above data set, which is the Kiva loans, I did the filtering process column by column. So we can see we already went through the different columns with the null values. And I started with actually I had decided on the tags column, which had the highest number of null values. So it had 171,416 null entries. So if I were to remove the tags column, if I were to remove the rows in the tags column, that would mean I'd have to remove 171,000 entries from all the columns within the data set. So rather than remove a large number of entries from all the columns, I decided to drop the tag column individually and replace that and make the drop permanent onto the data set. Okay, so after removing the tags column, I went and looked at the use column. So the use column had a number of uses. So it had data pertaining to the uses of the loans that were taken by the individuals from Kiva loans. So due to the nature of the data, I was not able to deduce the use. So that meant I had to remove the null data points from the use column. So I did this using the drop NA function and stating the exact column that we were to remove the null data points from. So I did the same thing for the region, the partner ID, the disbursed time, funded time, the borrower gender, the country, and the country code column. Okay, so having removed the different null data points from the Cuba loans data set, I went back and checked to see if there are any remaining null data entries within the data set. So again, I used the isNull function and I summed up all the number of null data points in every column. And we can see that the number of null entries is now 0. So for the Cuba loans data set, the main data set, I again went and got the general information for the data set. And we can see that from the non-null count column, that all the number of entries in every given column are the same. So this is a confirmation that the given data set was cleaned for null entries. And and moving on, I was able to reset the index of the Cuba loans dataset using the reset index function and save that and make the change permanent to the dataset. Okay, so I did the same thing for all the remaining 3 datasets. That is the Cuba loans MPI region dataset. Having seen the number of null entries and removing the null entries per column, starting with the location name. Fortunately for the for the MPI region's location, after removing the location name entries, there were only 92 null entries left, which were later on removed, came to 0 after cleaning the latitude column using the same method with the drop NA function and specifying the column and making the change permanent to the dataset. Okay, so after removing the, after cleaning and confirming that there are no null values within the dataset, I reset the index for the dataset and I made the change permanent. Yes, and I did the same for the Cuba loan theme IDs dataset, as well as the Cuba loan theme by region dataset. Okay. I think maybe for the final dataset, the Cuba loan theme by region, I again encountered a similar occurrence with the first dataset for the main dataset for Cuba loans. That is, after looking and after going through the columns and seeing and filtering out the null data values, I found that a particular column, which is the geocode old, had a significantly higher number of null values. So rather than remove all the null values, I decided to drop the column because this contained the old geographical codes that were updated in another column called geocode that had the latest codes that were used. So again, after dropping the entire column for geocode old using the drop function, I again removed the null values in every column for the Kiva loan themes by region data set. Again, I shortened the code by including all the different columns in the drop function. Okay, and yes, again, I reset the indexes, and yeah, that was the cleaning process for cleaning out all the 4 data sets. Okay. Okay, so once the data sets were cleaned, I went on to the analysis part of the project. So we had learned that okay. So for the analysis part, I divided the analysis into 2 different parts. Since for the presentation that I was working on, I had chosen Israel as the target country, and I had, for the analysis part of it, I had divided the analysis into 2 different parts. So the first part is the general analysis for the data, and the second part, as we'll move on and see, is the targeted analysis, which focuses specifically on Israel as a country. So for the general analysis, I focused on all the different countries within the data sets that we were given. So the first part involved setting the size of the graph, and which I did by setting the RC parameter, the figure size, to 20 and 12, which is the height, which is the dimensions of the graph. So the good thing about setting the parameters early on is that it ensures that all the graphs that you visualize later on are a similar size, which is good for the visualization part. Okay. So for the first question I tackled in the general analysis was was which country had the largest number of loans versus the country with the largest quantity of loans or amount of loans. Okay. So for this analysis, I used a count plot, and I used the main Kiva loans data set, whereby I was counting the number of loans in every country. And the visualization came out as follows. So we can see a list of all the given countries in the Kiva loans data set. And we have a number count of the number of loans given to each country. So from the above visualization, we can see that the country with the highest number of loans was actually Philippines, with a significantly high number of loans, which is above 15,000 and almost 16,000 loans given out. And it was followed second by Kenya, which actually had just over 60,000 loans given out by Cuba. And the countries with the least amount of loans, I think, was, as we can see, there are quite a number, and they range from Panama to Bhutan and Lesotho. So there are quite a number of countries that have a very low number of loans. But we can see that in general, the number of loans given out, the Philippines had the highest count and the number of loans by far compared to any other country. So I went ahead and I wanted to see whether there was a correlation between the number of loans given and the amount of loans given to each country. So I did this by making a subset data frame and grouping the country and the loan amount column from Kiva loans. right? And I went and took a sum of all the loans for a given country within the Kiva loans data set, and reset the index and used this data within a given subset data frame. Okay, so for this visualization, I used a bar plot, and I plot out the loan amount against the given country from the subset that we had just created above. And the visualization actually is quite interesting. So it shows that the Philippines, again, has the largest amount of loans per country. However, there are a number of countries that also took a large number of loans. We have also Peru, Paraguay, Kenya. We also have Cambodia, Bolivia, and Armenia. So from the previous graph that we saw, we had seen that the Philippines and Kenya had the largest number of loans from Kiva loans. And from this visualization that we have, we can see again that Kenya, the Philippines, leads with the highest amount of loans. Also, within the top 5 countries that have the by loan size, we see that also Kenya is amongst those countries. I believe it is only 4th after Peru and Paraguay. So we can definitely see that there is a correlation between the number of loans that are given to a country and also the amount of loans that are given to a country. However, the correlation is not as strong as indicated by the number of loans given, because we can see that there are some countries that took a significant amount of loans, such as Cambodia, Bolivia, and Ecuador, that did not take a very large number of loans, but they have a large loan amount taken from Kiva loans. Okay, yeah. So after, I think this was the first question. And the second question I took in the general analysis was which sector has the highest number of loans versus which sector has the largest amount by loans. Okay, so again, so the first part, I wanted to get the number of loans per sector, and I used a count plot. And so I used a count plot to visualize the loan count per sector within the K-loans dataset. So from the dataset by Kiva loans, the main dataset, we can see that across all the different sectors, the sector with the largest number of loans was the agricultural sector. Followed by the food and retail sectors. So the sector with the least amount of loans was the wholesale sector, as well as entertainment, as the entertainment sector. So there was a moderate number of loans for the remaining sectors. So I went ahead and wanted to evaluate whether there was a correlation between the amount of loans taken and the number of loans taken per sector. So again, I created another subset from the Kiva loans main data set, and I summed up all the loan amounts for each sector. And I used that within a bar plot to see, to plot out the sector against the loan amount from the data set that we made. Okay, okay, and yeah, so from the analysis that we've done, we can see that the largest amount of loans that were taken were from the agricultural, the food, and the retail sector. And the least amount of loans again taken was by wholesale and the entertainment sector. And the remaining sectors also had a moderate number of loans, amount of loans taken per sector. So from this visualization, we can definitely see, so we can see that from this visualization, the agricultural, food, and retail sectors had the largest amount by loans. We can also see that there is a very strong correlation, because in the number of loans taken, we also see that the food, agricultural, and the retail sectors are also leading, with the wholesale and the entertainment sector having the least amount and number of loans. So yes, so this we can be able to deduce due to the nature of the businesses taken in the agricultural, the food, and the retail services, that it is they are heavily dependent. These are three sectors that are heavily dependent on loans due to the nature of their business, because we'll be able to because the returns on the business are not as immediate. They're not as immediate as other sectors. Take, for example, the entertainment sector. So we have sectors probably that require a lot of input, and also they require a long period before they can realize the profits. So in order to operate the business in between the sales and the return of the profits from the sales, so they require inputs of loans. That is why probably they have, this would be a given indication as to why they have a large number of loans and also a large amount by loans taken within the sector. Okay. Okay. So the third question that I took, that I went through, was which region had the highest number of loans versus the highest amount by loans. Okay, so I used a count plot. Again, for this analysis, I used the Cuba MPI region locations dataset. So I used the count plot to count the number of loans taken by every region within Kiva loans operation. So we can see that as per region, the Kiva loans operates in 6 main regions. That's South Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, Latin America, in the Caribbean, East Asia, and the Pacific, the Arab states, Europe, and Central Asia. So we can see that from this visualization, we can see that the largest number of loans that were taken by Kiva loans, from Kiva loans, came from the Sub-Saharan Africa world region, and the least number of loans taken from Kiva loans was from Europe and Central Asia. So after Sub-Saharan Africa, there is Latin America and the Caribbean that also came second. But in terms of the number of loans, I think there is a disproportionate distribution in terms of number of loans taken from Cuba within the Sub-Saharan Africa region, which goes to over 350. Okay. As for the data set that we used. Okay. Okay, so I went ahead and wanted to see if there's a correlation between the number of loans taken in each and every region that a Kiva loan operates and the amount of loans taken for each and every region. Okay, so for this, we again I used the same method, but now I needed to use data that was available in different data sets. So I merged the main Kiva loans data set and the Kiva loans MPI by region location data set. I merged them on the country field. Okay. Okay. And once I merged them and made a common data set called merged loans, MRL. And from the common data set, I made a subset using the world region. I grouped it using the world region and the loan amounts. So I took the sum of the loan amounts for each region from the data set that we just used by merging, and I made the subset. And I used a bar plot for the visualization, and plot the world region against the loan amount from the subset that we just made. Okay, so there was a very interesting visualization deduction from this. And as we can see that there is the correlation is there is actually little correlation between the number of loans taken and the loan amounts taken in each given region. So we can see that in the previous visualization that the sub-Saharan Africa had the largest number of loans taken, followed by Latin America and the Caribbean. However, for the amount of loans that were taken, we can see that the largest amount of loans taken was from Latin America and the Caribbean, followed by East Asia and the Pacific, and with Sub-Saharan Africa coming in third. So we can see that the other states, which is the other world regions, which is the Arab states, the Europe and Central Asia and South Asia, took a relatively low amount of loans, and they were more or less the same. So we can definitely see that there is no correlation between the amount of loans taken and also the number of loans taken between the different world regions. So from this deduction, I was able to see that the amount of loans taken was mainly dependent on the use for the loans. So we can see Sub-Saharan Africa had a large number of loans taken. However, the use for each loan did not require a large amount taken for each loan taken. So Sub-Saharan Africa had a large number of loans, but each loan given was of a relatively smaller quantity in terms of the loan size, while East Asia and the Pacific and Latin America and the Caribbean, they had a different distribution in terms of the size of the loans that were taken. So we have, for example, the East Asia and the Pacific, we have a small number of loans, but depending on the use of the loans, the loan amount for every loan taken was significantly higher. And I think this is more so, but in a more moderate amount, in a more moderate scope, the same scenario within Latin America and the Caribbean. Okay. So that's the third question. So the fourth question I did is, what is the multidimensional poverty index distribution as a value of loan counts versus the MPI distribution per country? Okay. Okay, so I went onto the Kiva Loans website And no, actually I used the Kaggle. I used the Kaggle website, and they have a definition for the MPI. They have a definition for the MPI, which is the multidimensional poverty index distribution. So it looks at different uh, factors that contribute towards poverty in terms of various factors such as infrastructure, lighting and electricity, and access to roads and water. So depending on the index, and for an index with a low value count, the country or the country that is under observation is seen to be less poor as opposed to an index with a high value count. So the higher the index, the greater the poverty, and the lower the index, the lower the poverty within that given region. Okay. So.
A minute, Kevin.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. So great presentation so far, but I just have a request. We just try to keep it short and precise so that we can also have room for others to present, because it's already 8. Yeah.
Sure, no problem, no problem. Let me go faster through it. I'll try and simplify. Okay, sure. Okay, so yes, so for the distribution of the MPI, I used a HIST plot. And for the HIST plot, I used the hue in the different world regions. So we can definitely see that from this visualization that the different regions are represented by the different colors. And we can see that for a low value of MPI, we have a lot of them, the regions mainly consisting of Latin America, Europe and Central Asia. We also see South Asia and some parts of Sub-Saharan Africa also. Now we can definitely see that from this visualization, we see that Africa has the Sub-Saharan Africa world region has a large distribution of poverty, which is ranging from low poverty to extreme poverty. But the main concentration is a large portion of it is within moderate levels of poverty according to the MPI index. And we can see the South Asia has a distribution that is skewed towards the lower end of the MPI index. So the majority of the regions within South Asia are ranging in the MPI index of 0 to around 0.2 to 0.25. Yes. Okay, so I went and did the same per country, and we can see that this is definitely represented per country. So we can see the countries with the largest MPI index are again Togo, we have Namibia, we have also Benin, and we have Ethiopia. So we can see a large number of countries, and Niger. So we can see a large number of countries that have a high index of poverty, again, from the regions that were indicated here. And most of them are within the world region of Sub-Saharan Africa. Okay. So the fifth question is, what is the overall distribution on the loan repayment interval? Okay, so for this, I used a HIST plot and used the repayment interval on using the K-loans dataset. So we can definitely see that a large number of loans are paid monthly and followed by a large number of loans paid irregularly. So very few number of loans are paid exactly on time with bullet. So I went ahead and wanted to see whether the repayment, okay, so to check whether the repayment interval, how it reflected across the different sectors. Okay, so again, for this, I used a subset and used the subset to gain the data from the K-loans dataset and used a bar plot to plot the data. So, Okay, so from this, we can definitely see that for bullet payments, we have the, okay, so for bullet payments, we have the agricultural sector with the highest amount of loans in the bullet payment, and we have in the irregular payment interval, we have the food sector, the agricultural sector, and the retail sector, as well as the same for the monthly payments, which is also food, agriculture, the agricultural sector and the retail. And also we have services within the monthly payment sector. Okay. So for the seventh question, I went, what are the top 10 loans uses by loan count versus by loan amount? Okay. So for loan count, I again used a subset of the Cuba loans main data set. I summed the loan amount and for every use, and I sort the values in ascending order. And after sorting the values in ascending order, I filtered out the top 10 values. Yeah, I filtered out the top 10 values in the value counts. Yeah. And sort the values in ascending order and reset the index. Okay. So I used a bar plot. I used a bar plot to visualize this, to visualize the data. And I only took the first 10 uses for each use. Okay, so we have the main use, the largest use to buy water filters to provide safe drinking water for the family, followed by to buy water filter again for the family, and also to buy water. Okay. So from the first three main uses, we can see that most of the loans used were used to acquire safe drinking water. So we can definitely see that a large number of loans, the large amount of loans that were taken were used in areas where safe drinking water is not easily accessible. And yes, so we can see a very large number of uses, and we can see the uses that follow was also to build sanitary facilities within the different areas, and with the least number of uses again used for farm supplies and also safe drinking water. So we can see from the previous analysis we had that there wasn't a real correlation between the number of loans and the amount of loans given, because the different loans were used differently for we can see that each loan use determines the amount of the loans that were taken by individuals. So we can see for individuals that use the loans to buy filters to have safe drinking water would have a large number of loans given vis-a-vis the loan amounts for each loan would be small. So we can deduce that from the previous visualizations that we had, where the large number of loans were from sub-Saharan Africa, we can see that a large number of them were probably used to buy filters to provide safe drinking water for the family. Okay. Yes. Okay. And I wanted to. Okay. So okay. So I did the same thing for the youth. Now I only used the loan amount. So as compared to the number of loans that were taken, we wanted to see which use had the largest loan amount. So from this, we can see that the largest loan amounts went to buy a water filter to provide safe drinking water for the family, and also to purchase solar light and gain access to efficient hybrid seeds and fertilizers for maize cultivation. Okay, and also to purchase clear water filters and groceries for sale. So we can definitely see that a large number of the loans were used in the agricultural sector. And also we can see that a large number of loans were used to acquire facilities for safe drinking water and sanitary conditions. Okay. So the eighth question is, what are the leading field? The eighth question that I went through was, what are the leading field partners by loan count versus the lead partners by loan amount? Okay. So for this, I used a subset, the field partner names. I got the counts for each and sort the values in ascending order. So we can see I used a bar plot to visualize the data that we had gotten from the subset, and we can see that these are the field partners that are used on the ground by Cuba loans. So we have the leading field partner is Alalay, okay, or in short ASKI, followed by GDMPC, and with Interactuar at third place. Okay. Okay. So we can definitely see that the first main leading field partner is ASKI. So it would be an interesting deduction as to see how the field partner is able to get or to be able to give out a large number of loans in comparison to the other field partners. That would be an interesting study to see on the ground. Okay. So I did the same analysis, but now with respect to the loan amounts that were given. Okay, field partner accounts. Okay. So yes. Okay. Okay. So I used the field partner name. Okay. So for each. Okay. So this is supposed to be the loan amount. Okay, so we can definitely see, okay, so we can definitely visualize that ASKI again is a leading field partner, followed by GDMPC and Interactuar at third place. Okay, despite the difference in the loan amounts. Okay, so yes, okay, so yes, okay. So this is the comparison now of the field partner names with the amount of loans that are given on the ground. So we can definitely see. Sorry for that. Sorry for that. 1 second. Okay. Excuse me a minute. Okay.
Yeah, Kevin, about 5 minutes to go.
5 minutes left, right? Okay. So I think there's a small confusion over there that happened on this question. So let me go to the ninth question. Okay, so what are the leading currencies by loan count versus leading currencies by loan amount? Okay, so definitely I used a bar plot for this. I used a count plot for this, and I got the currency counts. And we can see that the number of loan counts, again, this is the Filipino currency, followed by the Kenyan shilling and the US dollar. So we can see the loan counts, again, number of counts is corresponds to the number of loans given. But in comparison to the currency used as per loan amount, which I used a bar plot, we can see that the highest currency used, the currency with the largest amount of loans were given is the dollar, followed by the Filipino currency and the Kenyan shilling, coming in at around fourth after the PEN and the PYG currency. Okay. So geographical representation of the loan amounts given through Cuba, represented by each country. So that was the 10th question that I took for the general analysis. Okay, so for the analysis, we can definitely see that I used a choropleth map, and which is a sort of a heat map showing the loan amount with the bright colors being a high amount and the darker blue colors being a low amount. So we can see there's a high concentration of loans within the Philippines, within the Southeast Asia region, and also a large concentration of loans within the Latin American region, the highest being in Peru. In Africa, we can definitely see that around Central Africa and Central and Eastern Africa, there is a moderate concentration of loans, with the largest number being in Kenya. Okay. Okay, so moving on to the next question, I think, what is a geographical representation of the field partners working with Cuba, represented according to the loan amounts issued by each partner? Okay, so I used a scatter plot to visualize the partners given to the field partners and the loan sizes per field partner on the ground. So unfortunately, I think for this one, the size of the graph is actually quite small. I think this is a part of the visualization of Plotly. But we can be able to see that a very large amount of loans were given in the Southeast Asia region. And this was the main partner that was responsible for the loans was the Negros Women for Tomorrow Foundation. And we can also be able to deduce that another large number of loans were given in the Latin American region, and the main partner responsible for this was the was named was the one named given above. So we are able to see a large number of loans that were given, and also we can be able to see in Africa, around the Central and Eastern African region, Hekima, the field partner Hekima, was responsible for a large number of loans issued by Cuba loans. Okay, so this moves on to the second part of the analysis, which is the targeted analysis, which is mainly targeting Israel. Okay, so for this, I isolated the data specifically for Israel. I did this by assigning it to a variable and visualizing the first five entries of the data set. Okay. So the first question I looked at in the analysis for Israel is, which activity was the highest involvement in the population? Okay, so within Israel, I think we were able to see that in terms of count, a large number of loans went in the use within the beauty and the beauty salon industry. And this was again followed by a large number of loans going to the clothing and sales sector, and followed by the services and childcare industry within Israel. Okay. And the second question I undertook is, what sector has the highest recorded activity? Okay, so I used the count plot for this, and can be able to see from the analysis that the services sector and the services sector had the largest number of loans that were given out, followed by the food sector and the clothing sector within Israel. And the next significant sector was the retail sector, coming in fourth in terms of the number of loans per sector. Okay, and the third question I took is, what are the top 20 uses for the loans taken? Okay, so I used the subset for this, and I filtered the subset to give out the first 20 entries. So I used the bar plot to represent the graph. And we can definitely see that the number of uses was the largest was to assist with paying for renovations, lighting, and electrical work to add outlets. Okay, so an interesting observation is that there was a very large variance in the number of uses for loans within Israel. So we can see that there are only 2 loans that were used to pay off renovations, and the remaining other 19 loans that were taken were all occurrences, that were all single occurrences. So we can be able to, so I was able to deduce that there are a large number of uses for the different loans taken within Israel. So a good example is some of the uses were to purchase professional mixer supplies and additional electric sieve. Another example is to advertise and build a website which will display the stock online for supplies. Another use is to assist in paying for materials needed for clothing, fares, and additional stock. So this is an indication of this was an indication of the economic platform or the economic background of Israel that allows for a large number of economic activities to be undertaken. So we have a very large number of varying economic activities, and for depending on the economic activities taken, the loan uses vary very largely in use. They vary largely in terms of the uses of each loan taken. So we can find that there are very many uses for the different loans taken, and so each use only has a single occurrence. This is due to the economic scope or landscape that allows for a large variety of businesses to operate within Israel. Okay, so what is the borrower gender count within Israel? So this was an interesting interesting observation, and I used a count plot for this, and I used okay. So I used a count plot for this one. Gender count. Okay, yeah. Actually, I had gone through this question, and unfortunately, the borrower gender columns within the Israel subset does not state clearly male and female. So it has an indication of groups of people taking up loans. So you'll have a group of 2 females and maybe a male, or three females and a male, or 3 females and 2 males. So it does not have a single set of a male or a female borrower. So this particular question was difficult to visualize due to the manner in which the data was collected in the column. Okay. 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 So we can move to I think I can be able to display that. Let me see if I can get that data. These are the first 5, but I think you'll be able to display the different columns in the Israel in the subset. Then it will be easily visible as to that particular question. Okay, so I went ahead and I took a count plot of the different loans per given sector. So again, we see that the services, the food, clothing, and the retail sector. Okay, so the fifth, after the 5th question, we see is what is the currency denomination count used for transactions? Okay, so I used the count plot and I used the currency field. So we can see a large number of loans are taken in the local currency. Okay, sorry about that. So you can see a large number of loans, which is almost 100 and over 175 loans were taken in the Israeli shekel, and a small number of loans were taken using the US dollar currency. Okay. So the next question is, what is the distribution of the loan term in months? Okay, so I used a histogram plot for this, and I used the borrow agendas to be able to see the distribution according to the gender difference. So the female gender is represented in blue and the male gender is represented in orange. So it's quite interesting to see that the distribution was skewed to long-term loans in terms of months. So we have so a large number of loans were actually taken between 37 to 40 to around over 40 months. So we have a large number of loans falling within that distribution, followed by long term in between around 25 and 30 months. So a large number of loans range from around 37 to over 40 months, followed by a large number of loans falling between 25 and 30 months. So also from this distribution, we can be able to see that a large number of loans are taken by the female gender within Israel, with a very small number of loans being taken by the male gender within Israel, which I thought was quite interesting. Okay, so the next question that I tackled is, what is the distribution of the lender accounts per individual? Okay, and so I used a histogram plot for this, and I again was about to checked the distribution for the lender accounts with variation in terms of the gender, with a bias in the gender. Okay, so we see that lender accounts, we have a large number of loans were taken, a large number of individuals, right? Over 30 individuals have taken between 50 and 100 loans, with the next significant amount being over 25 individuals taking between 150 and 200 loans. So we have an environment. We can be able to deduce that the environment in Israel is that a lot of businesses operate using loans in terms of for their operations. But we can be able to see for very few loans actually go. Very few individuals take over 200 loans. So we have individuals in Israel have a good relation with we can say for this particular instance, Cuba loans, because they have a good long-standing relationship with the organization and have taken multiple number of loans from Cuba loans, as opposed to taking a loan maybe once or twice. Okay. So the next question is, what is the distribution of the lender accounts per sector?
Yes, so can you please wind up now?
Okay, sure. Okay, so we can see that depending on the different sectors, so we can definitely be able to see that a large number of loans, a large number of individuals take a significant number of loans to be used within the services sector. So we have, for example, we have over 17 individuals, so a large distribution of individuals between 17, 10, and over 7.5, take between 50 and 125 loans, mostly to be used within the services sector. And also, so it is interesting also to see that loans taken by individuals between 150 and 200 loans, which is not a very large number of individuals, but a significant number of individuals, as per the distribution, were used for, it's quite interesting, were used for, I believe, were used for the agricultural industry, I believe, as per the color here. Yes. Yeah, so that is again the lend account distribution as per the sector. So for bivariate analysis, so I went ahead and checked which is the most funded activity. So which again, I summed up the funded amount per every activity. And I used a bar plot, and we can be able to see that the beauty salon and the clothing sales were the highest funded amount. So they took the largest number of loans, which is the clothing sales and the beauty salon sector. Okay, in terms of the activity, in terms of the activity used. Okay, and which is the highest funded sector? For the highest funded sector, I used a bar plot, and I was able to get the funded amount again using the similar method of using a subset, and I got the sum of all the funded amounts per sector. And we're able to see that the services sector, followed by the clothing, food, and retail sector, have the largest amount of loans given. So what is the distribution of the following question was what is the distribution of the repayment interval by the sector? Okay, so I used a histogram plot and the repayment interval for each given sector for the data set. So what I found was quite interesting is that all the loans in Israel are paid on a monthly basis. There are no loans that are irregular, and there are no loans that are paid in a bullet interval, but all the loans are paid on a monthly basis. And the largest amount of loans that were paid back again is the services sector, followed by the yes, this is the services sector, followed by the personal use sector, yes, and the agricultural and clothing sector following by. Okay, so the next question is, what is the distribution of the repayment interval per sector again for the given sectors? Okay, I used a scatter plot. So the repayment interval and the scatter plot the repayment interval per sector using a scatter plot. So we're able to see that the repayment interval again is monthly, and the largest amount of loans again are in the clothing sector, the food sector, the agricultural sector, and followed by some loans in the entertainment.
Yes. So Kevin, I think it's already time. Please, we can have the next one present because it's already 8:30.
Okay, yeah, sure. No problem. I think, due to the constraints, I think I'll stop the presentation here. Yes, I hope it was well understood, and I hope everything was okay in terms of the presentation and delivery. So thank you for the opportunity, and yes, I think I'll pass on the opportunity to the next individual. Okay, thanks. Okay.
Fiona, are you there? Fiona, are you on the call?
Yes, sorry. Kevin, thank you for that presentation. It was relatively detailed, but what I've got from it is that you have been able to capture basically you know what you're talking about. And that's what we are trying to find out, just to see if you've been able to at least digest the very basic stuff. So that was a very good presentation. I especially like how you've arranged your work. All I tell you to do is make sure you comment on your code. More times than not, when you'll be doing these kinds of things in your places of work, you have to find you're most likely going to have to share your findings with someone. So it's usually helpful for you to write your code, comment on your code. So like when you've done your analysis, you find that the top 5 uses for a certain loan in a certain place is this. You can have a markdown cell below that, just so that when you're trying to take someone through your notebook, or it doesn't have to be through the notebook, it could be through any findings. Maybe you're creating a PowerPoint or something. It's a whole lot easier because you've already explained what you're trying to do with your code. You don't have to start reading the code again for you to, like, know what it is you were trying to achieve. But all in all, that was a very good presentation. I can tell you're on your way to be an awesome data scientist.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for that. Well and duly noted. Much appreciated.
Yeah, next, please. Lorna, are you ready? So I would please encourage you to take between 10 to 20 minutes because it's already late in the evening. So Lorna, are you ready?
Hi, Alice.
Yes.
Okay, let me just open up the workbooks in a minute.
Yeah, meanwhile, Mini also get prepared. It's just gonna be very short and precise, between 10 to 20 minutes. Yeah, so I think we had Wayne and Mataka. They had some internet challenge, but if they happen to join in between, they will also have a chance to present for a few minutes.
Okay, hi everyone. Sorry, just got at home trying to get to settle down a little bit. So on the first questions that's on the EDA on Kiva loans, I focused on Nepal as my country of choice. First of all, I read the data from the Kiva dataset, then checked out the info on the Kiva dataset. At this point, I don't think it was relevant because all we needed was for Nepal. So basically checked through the countries in the Kiva dataset, then subset Nepal. So we got to .head to just have an overview of the information on the Kiva dataset. Then check the info on Kiva dataset where I found out that tags had null data, which I filled that with unknown. Also formatted some of the data sets that had for example, the date timings that were reading as object. You can see, for example, here, that's sorted out the date. Then this is all sorting out the dates. Then now checked out the data types as well. The data type. So they were all now sorted out. That's the posted date, disbursed time, and funded time. Sorry, just checking out through the data. So went to checking out the null values. I think this is why I mentioned I found the tags at null values. That's why I filled with the unknown. Then I went now to work on the EDA questions. Question 1 was what country got most loans? Does the number of times a country is referenced relate to the quantity of loans it got? So that I did a count on the number of times a country was referenced, and this came out that Philippines was referenced most, followed by Kenya and El Salvador. Sorry, this is just a graphical representation of that data. It's a subset of 5 countries, the top 5 countries, which is Philippines, Kenya, El Salvador, and Cambodia, and Pakistan. Then most loan amounts that a country got. So I I checked out the data on which countries got the most loan amounts, and in this scenario, we could see Philippines, Kenya, and United States, as opposed to what we saw here. El Salvador was the third most referenced country, but in this scenario, in terms of loan amounts, United States was third in terms of the amount of loans it received. So this is where you find out that the amount of times that countries referenced does not really reflect the amount of loans the country received, as evident with El Salvador and the USA from this data. Then second question was, what sector got most loans? Does the number of times a sector is referenced relate to the quantity of loans it got? Looked at the sectors. Food came out top, followed by agriculture and services. This is the amount of times these sectors were referenced. If you look at the amount of loan these sectors received, food was top again, followed by agriculture and health. From this point, we also deduce, similarly to the amount of loans countries got, it's the amount of times a sector is referenced does not reflect the amount of loans it got, which you can see from this graphical representation that food was top, followed by agriculture and health. Then thirdly, the third question was for the top sector, what activity had the highest amount of loans? What does that say about that activity? So as mentioned earlier, I was focusing on Nepal. So we looked at the top sector in terms of, for the top sector, which was food, what activity had the highest amount of loans? What does that say about the activity? So I checked out on the, top sector loans, top sector, which was food. So I checked out the data from the food data set, where we found out that the activities in this sector was grocery store, milk sales, butcher shop, fruits and vegetables, food production and sales. So the question was, what does the sector say about these activities? Sorry, I think Fiona has mentioned this. I did not put the notes down upon the findings, but what we can see is that it's the grocery store that leads in this food sector, as evident in most developing countries, where you find the day-to-day grocery business is always booming. So we can find from this data that grocery store was the leading sector in terms of, was the leading activity in the food sector. Then the fourth question was, which region had the highest amount of loans? So I looked at the Nepal data, and from the Nepal data, okay, sorry, pronunciation might not really matter here. Sainu Bashipati and Chapogan Bashipati, in that respective order, were the highest regions in terms of loans received. Then question 5 was, what does the loan amount look like for various repayment interval in the various sectors, in the various activities? There's a loan amount. Sorry, I've not gone through my data, so I'm trying to remember as I go through. I've just arrived in my house. What does the loan amount look like for the various repayment interval? So there were 3 repayment intervals, monthly, irregular, and bullet. So from this small representation here, you can see monthly was the most favored in terms of repayment interval, followed by regular and then bullet. And then that I did a graphical representation to just show that, by the sectors involved. So you can see from agriculture, mostly was monthly, then retail as well, monthly. Health was irregular, and we can see arts was bullet. So then question 6 was, what were the numbers between male and female recipients? Does the number communicate anything? So when you look at the Nepal data, female recipients were 711, then male recipients were only 6. From this data, we can find that women were more enthusiastic in the borrowing of loans in this country. I think more or less we see this often in most developing countries or undeveloped countries, that women take up most informal or anything that can, bring up food to the table. Then again, if we look at question 7, what sector in the country got the highest amount of loans? This is food. Again, in this kind of countries like Nepal, we see that sectors like food, where it's more or less a basic need, were more likely to be the sectors that borrowers were borrowing towards. So from this graphical representation as well, you can see it's food, agriculture, more or less the norm in most countries, health, following each other like that. Then question 8 of the EDA questions was, so this is just a different type of graph. This I used Plotly, and this one was more or less seaborne. Similar kind of graph anyway. Then what regions in the country got the highest loans? This we already saw was Sainbu Bashipati. I think you can see this from this graphical presentation as well, in that order. Same, just a different graph, just trying out different representations. Then we go to the visualization questions. So again, imported the libraries, read the Kiva data sets. Of course, subset Nepal. This was just data info of the Nepal info. So basically just what the various data represents. ID, it's a unique ID for the loan, and so on and so on. So you go to the visualization questions. Question 1 was top 10 loan activities in the data. So just did Nepal columns. Sorry, I'm not sure why this is not. So top 10 activities from the Nepal data, we could see there was grocery store from this graphical presentation, farming, poultry, agriculture, milk sales, tailoring, butcher shop, cattle, and daily fruits and vegetables. Then question 2, the most different dominant field partners. So here I read the Kiva regions dataset, and then the Kiva ID dataset as well, then the Kiva themes by region dataset. Then here subset Nepal. Then I checked Kiva, yes, check the columns. Sorry, I think I did not. So subset Nepal, then looked at the IDs in this data. You see the loan theme, loan type, partner ID. Then the question is the most dominant field partners. So more or less, this was more like workouts to gear towards finding out the most dominant partners. So for the most dominant partners, we found out it was pattern, business and professional women, GAM and power in Nepal. This was through merging the various data sets to be able to figure out the most dominant field partners. Then this was just basically a simple graph to represent that. Then what partner names and their total loan amount. So I merged the Nepal data with the Nepal themes by region. Then we could see pattern, business and professional women had 1,011, and then same to Wedu. So more or less showing the amount of loans these various partners got. Then the next question was question 4, the partner names and their total funded amount. This again got this from the Nepal data. As mentioned, I focused on Nepal, and you could see pattern business and professional women. They got a total of 243,500 in terms of loan amounts. Basically, the various partners and their funded amount from this representation here. Then the next question was the partner names and their total amount of loans. You could see similarly the same case. Match the Nepal data. Nepal match. Yeah, field partner name and partner ID to figure out the total number of loans the various partners received. So we could see pattern business and professional women receiving 700 and GAM Empower Nepal receiving five loans. Sorry, I'm not sure why I did not top reasons for giving loans. Sorry, this one skipped my I skipped that one. Then top regions by loan amount, just subset the Nepal data, and we could see in this order. Sorry, the names are a bit difficult, but Sembu Bashipati was a top region in terms of the loan amounts received, followed by Chipagun and by Sepati, and this as well represented from this group graphical view. Sorry. Then the correlation of the numerical values using a heat map. First figure out the correlation between the various sectors. So we could see as we'd figured we had done in class, and we saw the most like across the vertical line, most of it usually is more like a bar graph presentation of the data and more like positive. This is the same finding in this data that you could see across the data representation, which can be seen through this pair plot. You can see through across the pair plot. Then also did a heat map for the same. You could see from this presentation of the data as well. Then question 9 was the distribution of the loan, which I did a KDE plot on the same, and we could see most of the loan was concentrated between 0 and 2,000. So not much of high loan amounts were given in this country. As you can see, the graph flattens as you head towards the 14,000 mark. Then question 10, the distribution of the funded amount. Sorry, this one didn't come out properly. I think I'll do some more homework on this one. More or less cluttered between 0 and 2,000. Then question 11 was the distribution of the repayment term. The repayment terms in Nepal were monthly, irregular, and bullet. So from this graph, we can see most of the loans taken were more paid on a monthly basis. Irregular and bullet were unpopular. Then question 13, the distribution of the funded amount by region. So you could see this again through this graphical representation that the distribution of the funded amount by region. So we could see again, yes, Saina Bubeshipati leading that, as they were the top receivers of loan in Nepal. Then question 14, the funded amount with the sector as the hue. So this you can see the sector here with the different colorations to be able to differentiate from this graphical presentation. This I did bar plot on using Seaborn, and we could see food on blue as seen on this hue color representations, and then agriculture, same thing. So basically representing the various sectors. Then the next question. Sorry, some of them was just doing different kind of plots to just see how the representation would be. This was more or less of a scatter plot to show the same representation as above. Then the next question was question 15, a box plot of the regions against the funded amount. So this this as well, you can see the different regions represented in this box plot. You can see as you highlight on the various boxes, you can see which regions they represent. Then the repayment interval for the different regions. Again, similar to, we've seen this, the country more or less was geared to monthly repayments, and the regular and bullet were not very common. So region-wise, we can see the leading region, which was Sainabashepati as well, more embraced as well monthly repayments, and so on and so on, with the likes of Jayagath taking on irregular for most of their loans. Question 17, box plots of the loan amounts in sector. So again, these plotted a box plot for the loan amounts versus the sectors, which you can see represented here. And again, as you highlight, you can see the different levels from this graphical presentation. Question 18, sector-wise classification of loans on top sectors for the top 20 regions. Sorry, this again showed the sector, which is the top sector was food and the loan amount they took. So this question asks sector-wise classification of loans based on top sectors for the top 20 regions. So first, checked out the sector and the loan amounts they received. Then top 20 regions by sector. So values got an expected error by. I think I'll ask for help on this one from Fiona as we conclude. I think let me go to the rest of the questions and we can come back to that. Then the number of field partners per region from the MPI data set. So we could see by region, the amount, the number of field partners in those regions, led of course by the top borrower, which had 141 partners. So basically that representation from the data, top 20. Then question 20 was the months and the total number of loans in that month. Oops. Okay, sorry, I was just setting up that. The months and the total number of loans in that month. So again, from the Nepal data, of course, this is sorting out the date issue, then so that we are able to check out the months from this data. Then monthly loans grouped the Nepal data by date, and the frequency was the month, and then the loan amount. So from this, we could find the months, the various months, and the loan amount. Then then the next question was the months and the total. Oh, sorry. Then I again translated this data into months, where you can see here the date translated to November 15,300, more or less in that arrangement in terms of how many loans were received in the particular months. Then question 21 was the number of regions in this data, which we found out was 22, since we dropped some of the regions during data cleanup. So I think that was it from me.
All right. Thank you, Lorna. So for this, so what has happened here is when you select, when you want to sort values, you need to have selected them while you are selecting the columns that you want. So if you want to sort by loan amount, you need to select region and loan amount. Basically, it's telling you that at that point, you have not selected that column, so it's not part of your data frame. So it's either you select region and the loan amount so that it's going to pick region and loan amount, then give you the sum of the loan amount, or you can just leave the sort by values, because at this point there is no column that you have picked that has any numeric values that you can sum up.
Actually, just noticed that from these two.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that.
But all in all, that was a very good presentation. You have also demonstrated that you actually know what is going on. You've understood what you're trying to do. And something that I think I may have forgotten to mention, more times than not, I actually got to learn this on the job. More times than not, no one's ever going to ask you for your notebook. People will just ask you for your findings from your notebook. So how you arrange your notebook is all up to you. All the mistakes, all the experiments you want to do, that's very okay. You'll never find a notebook that's extremely perfect. You can do all your experiments, make all your mistakes on your notebooks, because at the end of the day, people will just ask you, okay, what did you find out from all the data analysis that you did? So don't ever feel bad about having some bits of errors in your notebook. You've tried out a couple of things. That's fine. That's all up to you. The notebook is essentially it's your virtual environment, it's your playbox. Do whatever you want with it, but this is very awesome. I'll just tell you what I told Kevin. Be sure to comment on your notebook, so that, just as I've said, as opposed to when someone asks you what did you find out, you're trying to read your group by statement and try and remember what it is you were trying to do. You can just have markdowns below every finding that you find, just so that whenever someone asks you, just have some notes that you can very quickly read off from. But all in all, that was a very good presentation. I can also tell you on your way to being an awesome data scientist.
Thank you very much, Fiona, and sorry for my unpreparedness. I just got to the house, so I think that was quite evident, but I didn't get time to read through. And as you've mentioned, I think it is very, very important to have the markdowns on everything that you figure out from your workings, because it makes it simpler. Even when you're unprepared, it's easy to just go through and be able to deduce what you are working out at that point in time. Thank you very much.
All right.
Yeah, so thanks, Lorna and Kevin, for great presentation. So I think Amini is just restarting her laptop. She just told me she has hung up. So we can give her maybe less than 5 minutes to rejoin and present. I think the same with Wayne and Mataka. They're having challenges with their internet. Yeah. So maybe just less than 5 minutes. We see whether Mini will rejoin, and then we can just finalize with her. Yeah, maybe meanwhile, if we maybe have a question, a clarification from Kevin and Lorna, you can ask.
I really don't know what more I will say. More times than not, things you just learn with practice. Like, you can be so prepared for one kind of data set, and then a completely different data set is thrown at you and you have to start from scratch. So all I'll tell you is have fun, explore. You'll find that there's some skills that may be important for one data project that may not be too important for another, but then you'll find another project that you'll need to combine as much information as you can. So just don't be too rigid. Any data that comes your way, try just see what you can do with it. Don't just think only going to apply data science in my area of knowledge. You can apply data science anywhere, basically. Yeah, I just tell you, be very open-minded, have do a lot of practice, read a couple of blogs. Yeah, just have fun with it. That's the most I can tell you.
Thank you, Fiona, for that. And I think as I worked on these questions, I had a couple of challenges here and there. But as I go back through to that, to the workbook, I will then probably get back to you for a few help here and there. So thank you very much for that.
All right, that's no problem.
Great. So I think we have Wayne and Minnie. I think they're having some challenges. I think Wayne just dropped again. So you can just have Minnie. Just go ahead and pull up your presentation. Yes, so kindly make it so short and precise because of time.
Hi, Alice. Okay, just a minute. Let me just try reconnecting my internet again because I feel like I also have a problem with my internet as well.
Okay. Wayne, are you there? Wayne, I'm not sure whether your audio is not active, so I'm not sure whether you are actively on the group or not. Yeah,
So
maybe, yeah, okay, go ahead.
I'm ready. Sorry about that. I'm just having a problem with my internet.
Yeah,
Just
no problem. So, Wayne, can you hear us? Okay, so I think you can just go ahead.
okay. I'm just trying to run everything from my end. So first of all, I imported all the libraries. I was doing my project using the Kaggle, so I imported all my libraries, the pandas, NumPy, Plotly, Seaborn, Matplotlib, and the one is. So from there, we had the different types of data sets, the Kiva loans, for the region, for the loan themes, and for the Kiva loans, for the loans as well. So my data sets were named as below. So I had my data sets named as Cuba loans NPI, Cuba LTIMs, Cuba LTIMs ADP, and K loans. So first of all, I checked if there were any duplicates. So I found that there were no duplicates in the different data sets. The next I did a heat map to see the different to see the different null values in my projects. So in the data sets, sorry. So I found that in Kiva Elk in the DP, there were some yellow streaks. This meaning that the null values in that data set were so they weren't that much. So, and then I did the heat map for the Kiva Elkins, and I found that the geocode old, it had so many missing values. I did the same for Kiva loans MPI, and I found that there was the number of null values was quite a lot. So from there, I did a code so that I can remove the yellow streaks, the null values, I mean. Then after that, here is the implementation of after doing the null values. Okay, so I dropped the geocode old so that because I noticed that the null values were quite a lot when you see from this. Okay. So from the information given here, you find that the geocode had 1200 null values. So I decided to drop this column. And then for the other columns, I decided to fill in some values. So after doing that, you get the visualization to look like this. So that means there are no streaks in these values. So that means I removed all the null values. So then after there, now I started doing my questions. So the first question was the country with the most loans. And first of all, my data set was basically based in Uganda. So for my presentation, the country with the most loans was Philippines. You find the number of loans, it's 553,422,025. Yeah, so from there you find that they are arranged in ascending order, with the country with the most loans being Philippines. And the next question was what sector got the most loans? There's the number of times the sector in reference relates to quantity of loans. So for the sector in Uganda, you find that agriculture has the highest number of loans. Yes, so I used the column sector and loan amount to find out the sector with the highest loans. So from there, then go to the third question. So this is just the visualization of the sectors and the loan amount. So you find out that agriculture has the highest loan amount. So for question number 4, for the top sector, what activity had the highest amount of loans, and what does that say about that activity? So for the activities, I did a coding between a sector and the agriculture, and I found out that farming is the one that has the highest activity. So that means Ugandans are more dependent on loans for doing farming. Yeah. So question 5, what were the numbers between male and female recipients? Does that communicate anything? So from the coding, I just took the column for borrower genders and the IDs, and you find out that the number of female taking loans is higher compared to the male. So so you can say that almost 66% of the borrowers in the Ugandans are women. So question 6, what sector in Uganda got the highest loans? So from my view, it was from my view, you can see that Kasese has the highest number of loans in Uganda, with a loan amount of 1,405,750. So to the next question, this is the visualization of the data. So those are part of the questions from the EDA sector. So for the visualization questions, the top 10 loan activities in the data, that is in the data Uganda. So for the top 10 loan activities, you find that arts is the leading activity in Uganda with a loan amount of 50,000. So that means you find out that most people in Uganda like to do a lot of art. Then I did a visualization using the manipulative, and this is how it shows. You find that art is the leading activity, then followed by agriculture and waste management. And after that, then the renewable energy products, and then recycling, and then crafts. And second question was the most dominant trade partners. So according to my presentation, okay, according to my view, I looked for the mod, and I found out that the Ford microfinance was the most dominant field partner in Uganda. Question 3, the partner names and their total loan amounts. For me, I decided to focus with the sector and loan amount instead of partner names. So I did a coding. So the coding was to sort values for the top 10 loan amount per sector. And I found out that agriculture was the leading sector in Uganda. So this is the visualization of the graph. We find that agriculture is the leading sector, then followed by food industry, then retail, then services. The partner names and the total funded amount, it was just the same thing. Agriculture was the leading activity. Okay, for the partner names and the total number of loans, now you find here I grouped using the full personal name and the amount. So I found that Adikla was the one that was leading with a total amount of 2,582,050. So the data visualization, they used the bar plots to plot pattern. So this is how you see that a decline one that is leading. So for the top reasons for giving a loan, I used the column use and loan amount to sort values. So you find that they use the most reason used to ask for loan was to expand their retail sales channels. And this was the presentation system. So the most reason was to expand their retail sales channels. And that's why you find most people were asking for loans, channels, and more employment opportunities for rural artisans in Uganda. Yeah. So question 7, top region by loan amount. The top region by loan amount was Kampala with a loan amount of 50,000. I did a bar plot for that for the visualization. So you find this was okay. Sorry, this was a different bar plots. So top regions and the region. So then I did the correlation of the numerical values using a heat map. So for this presentation, I really don't know how to explain the correlation. It was quite challenging from my end here. So maybe Fiona, if you don't mind, you can assist on how I can do the interpretation of this heat map. Then question 9, the distribution of the loan amount. So the loan amount was mostly distributed between Kampala, Kaduna, Kasese, and Kigali. With Kigali with the least loan amount. Yeah, this is how it's represented using the histoplots visualization. And then the last question I did was the distribution of the funded amount, the same thing. So yeah, the funded amount was distributed it was distributed between Kampala, Kasese, Kigali, and Kienjonjo. So that's the difference between the funded amount and the loan amount distributed in Uganda. That's it. My presentation. Alice. Alice.
Oh, hi, Minnie, you're done?
Yeah.
Okay. Fiona, you got something to mention?
Hi, Minnie. So that was also a very good presentation. You do know what you're talking about. You may just need to clean up your notebook just a little bit. But as I said, maybe you were not here when I said that. More times than not, no one's ever really gonna ask about. Okay, they'll never ask to see your notebook. They'll just ask you about the findings from your notebook. So just tell you what I've told the rest. Be sure to comment on your code. Be sure to note down your findings so that it's just a bit easier for you to go through your notebook. Other than that, that was a good presentation. You do know what you're talking about. You've been able to find your findings. You've been able to explain yourself from the findings that you found. You can tell that this is what needs to be done, that and that. So yeah, that was a very good presentation. Thank you for that.
Well, thank you too, Fiona.
Okay, so I think, yeah, Minnie, that was good, short and precise. So thank you all for making time for this presentation. My word of encouragement is to, like Fiona mentioned, because in future you never know what kind of data set you shall be interacting with. So just keep on practicing, so that you can be able to know how to approach actually different problems, the different data set to provide different insights. So that was a good start, and I'm hoping we were able to give you what you desired for as you joined this course. And for those who have not yet pulled their project on Kaggle, maybe Lorna and Kevin, you can also pull that there so that you can be able to refer there in any time in future. So thank you and all the best. That was great. And now at this point, if we don't have any question, maybe we can just have the last comment as we break from Lorna, Kevin, and Minnie, and Fiona. Lorna, you can go first. Just last comment as we break.
I think it's been a great period, learning a lot. I think coming from a background not so data science related, it's been a bit of work, which I appreciate the support we've been getting. I think probably I'll mention is that, as I mentioned to Fiona, I'll have so many questions as we go on, as I find more time to go through various kind of issues here and there and trying to tackle various things. So I really appreciate what we've seen so far and what support you guys have given us. So thank you very much for that.
You're very much welcome. Yeah, sure. So I think after this, I'll be breaking up the Cohort 19 group. So we shall just move to our alumni group. But anytime you can just feel free to reach out to one of our tutors for any clarification or even help while maybe carrying out on your practice or maybe any other project. Yeah. Great. Kevin, your last comment?
Yeah, I think the whole experience has been really good. And I think also, especially coming from, for I myself included, and anyone and everyone else coming from a background that is not really related in data, it might have been a bit challenging. But I believe that the platform that Predictive Analytics has set for the students that are participating in the first level, the second and the third level, I think it's a really, really great platform. It's a really great foundation to start out on. And it's not only on a local setting, but also on an international and global setting worldwide. So I think everyone participating in this course, for the guys that are participating in the first level and in the second and the third level also, I think this is a really good foundation being set up, and I'd really I'd like to encourage also the staff and the team that have been able to put this together for everyone else. Yeah, it's a good.
Nice. Thank you, Kevin, for that comment as well. Actually, you reminded me of that. Yes, we're trying just to expose you into different fields and capabilities in regarding to data science. That's why I think you are among the members who are in our scholarship program for Belgium. That's Introduction to Python. So yeah, in future we shall be having very many scholarships regarding the data field and even other areas. So yeah, once you stick on, we shall be having also various opportunities, and you can grab the one that you feel it's in line with your niche. Yeah. So as well, maybe if you would also wish to continue with other levels, you can also side chat me, and then we shall see how to go about that here.
Sure, definitely will.
Minnie?
Okay, for me, I'd like to say thank you for creating a time and sharing with us this well educative course. I know most of us maybe might have been held up one or another, but at the end of the day, I feel like we've gained quite a lot. From my side, I didn't know much about programming and data science, but I feel like right now I can just walk out there confidently and just say that I have a course in data science. This feels like a very great impact in my life. So all I'm asking is maybe there are other more opportunities they come in case we want to continue with this course. We'd really appreciate if maybe you can assist one or another for the scholarships as well. We'd be grateful. Yeah. For that, I really enjoyed the classes and having a great time with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Minia. You don't have to worry not having the background in programming, because to science it's actually, you could say that percent programming, but the other percentage of also finding the insights, being able to solve the problems in different diversities. And yes, the programming just gives you the basics and how you can be able to solve different problems. So I think at this point, Fiona, I think you already said, or you have something to add?
No, I think I have said everything you need to say. Practice, have fun with everything that comes your way. And yeah, basically just have fun with it. Don't think of data science as something that can only be applied at work. It's something that you can also apply in your personal life. I've personally found that how structured things are really helps you to also structure your mind, how you think about things. So have fun with data science. That's the most I can tell you. And all the best in whatever you're going to do. Hopefully we may meet out there, help each other open doors, but all the best in everything you're going to do.
Great, thank you. Yeah, sure. So just for your information, data science and Python has a very large community. We have very many platforms. Maybe you remember the ones that I encourage you to open as you started the program. So just continue being active on those platforms, even Kaggle. There are very many other things you can do. There is competitions, there is a lot of projects. You can go to scrap data there and do it for yourself. You can even search by industry that you would wish to. Maybe like Lorna, you in sales and marketing, can just try to now gather data which is more inclined into sales and marketing and just do more practice on the same. So there is usually, nowadays there is information all over. Just try to make use of the best of what you get there. So I wish you all the best in your endeavors in areas of data science. Let's keep interacting and maybe hopefully to also see you in the next levels. Thank you very much and have a nice evening and good night.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.